Okay, hi guys. This is Leanne Hood from East Fairmont, and today I'm going to talk to the younger kids a little bit about how to read a chapter in your textbooks. This will be maybe 5th through 8th grade. So here is my son's textbook, and he's been having trouble with this, and I thought maybe it would be a good idea to try and help him and some of his classmates. So they are studying this chapter this week, Rome, Republic to Empire. One of the things, the mistakes kids make is they're just going to try and go do their test. You're going to try and go do your test without actually reading the chapter. And you're going to have to read the chapter in order to take the test. So the first thing that I always recommended to kids when I was at the elementary school was the first thing you want to do is read the questions at the end of the chapter first. So we're going to flip over here to page 367. So here is the assessment that was supposed to be taken, and what he was going to do was going to just try and flip through the chapter looking for the answers. Well, that's not really going to help him to understand anything. So the first thing you want to do when you read a chapter is read the questions at the end of the chapter so you know what you're reading for. Why are you reading the chapter? So these questions will help you. Now we can skip the vocabulary and we're going to go straight to how were living conditions different for rich and poor Romans. So the key word there is living conditions and rich and poor. In what ways did the Romans adapt forms of Greek literature? So you're looking for that key word, Greek literature. What challenged Rome? What problems challenged Rome in the AD 200s? And you're looking for the date, AD 200s. Why did Diocletian strengthen the Roman army? And so the key word there is Diocletian. So you're going to look for those words as you're reading. Okay, so now we're going to go back toward the beginning of the chapter. Okay, so we're at chapter 12. Okay. The next thing that I always told kids to do was to actually read the headings and the subheadings. So, daily life, the empire's chief city, the Roman family, what was life like for Roman women, Roman slavery, religion and philosophy, science and art, science, art and architecture, literature, theater and language, okay, political confusion, economic weaknesses, invasions, who was Diocletian, and there's that one name that we saw in one of the questions. The fall of Rome, Constantine's rule, Germanic invaders, okay, Roman emperor forced out, Rome's legacies, influence on law and government, cultural impact, ancient Roman Christianity. Okay, and now we're into the third section, the Byzantine Empire, Rome, Constantinople, cultural influences, Justinian's rule, Justinian's legal reforms, Byzantine arts. So I'm reading all of those, military conquests. Okay, so the next thing you start doing is reading. One of the major mistakes that kids do when they read is to not read out loud. So kids, the best thing that you can do is to actually read your chapter out loud to yourself. Teachers will do this in class, but because you're home, you're probably not doing that. And so when you read nonfiction, you should read it with as much expression as you read fiction. Okay? So I'll read a little bit to you so you understand what I mean by that. Daily life. What was daily life like for the Romans? Many Romans lived in cities throughout the Roman Empire. Like cities and towns of today, Roman cities were centers of culture, business, and government. We know quite a lot about life in places like Rome and Pompeii from studying the archaeological ruins. Even though the Roman Empire was widespread, the heart of the empire was on the Italian peninsula in the city of Rome. Rome was one of the largest cities in the ancient world. By about AD 1, more than 1 million people lived there. People traveled to Rome from every part of the empire. Like many other Roman cities, Rome was carefully planned. It was laid out in a square with the main streets crossing at right angles. Now let's take one of those questions at the back. and see how to actually find it. Sorry, I'm flipping pages here for you. Okay, how were living conditions different for rich and poor? All right, so keep going back. All right, so as I keep reading, like the emperor, wealthy Romans lived in large, comfortable houses on the city's hills. Their homes had marble walls, tiled floors, and running water. Their homes had I already read that. Houses were built around a courtyard called an atrium, which was open to the sky. The atrium often had a garden. Wealthy Romans also had homes called villas on large farms outside the city. Romans who were less wealthy worked as shopkeepers or artisans. Most Romans, however, were poor. Many did not have jobs, while others performed unskilled labor, such as delivering goods. Poor Romans lived in crowded, noisy, dirty neighborhoods in wooden apartment buildings 6 or 7 stories tall. These buildings often collapsed or caught fire. People tossed garbage into the streets, and thieves prowled the areas at night. Now there, you're going to see that it's talking about wealthy Romans, poor Romans. And your first question, if you were paying attention to what your questions were because you read them before you actually read the chapter, now you can find your answer pretty easily in the text. Okay? And you continue reading, and you can mark to say to yourself, okay, the answer to that question was on page 341. You want to pay attention to that. Always pay attention to these graphics. The graphics are great. I always love to see these cutouts here, what Roman houses actually looked like. So my son was pretty impressed by the atrium. He thought that was pretty cool that the houses were actually built in a rectangle, and then all this area over here was open. You know, it was like your own private play area outside. You could be outside and go straight back into your house without ever going into the street. So it was pretty cool. Okay. All right. So now, once you've done that, once you've read, you can go ahead back and start taking your assessment or your quizzes or answering your questions, whatever the teacher has told you to answer. In this book, they actually, at the end of a section, actually have questions there as well, which sometimes teachers will have you do. So why were Diocletian's reforms unsuccessful? Remember, we saw Diocletian as one of our subheadings, so we can go straight back looking for that subheading. And there is Diocletian right there. Okay, so hopefully this was a helpful little tip. The science books are similar. Let me show you a little bit. Oops, sorry, I just dropped the book on the floor. Let me take a look at the science book here. We're just going to pick the first chapter I can find. Okay, there's some of the things that they were talking about this morning. Let's see. Okay. All right, so systems, you can see here they're doing the same thing. Parts of a system: input, processing, output, feedback in systems, cooperation, order, and change, systems thinking. Now, all those are going to be, when you get to the end of your chapters, they're going to have questions in those chapters that have to do with those headings and subheadings. Okay? I don't know how often they have you answer the questions at the end with science, but it's very similar to the way you would have done it for social studies. So take a look at these questions first, take a look at your headings and subheadings second, and then go back and read your all the words. And make sure you pay attention to these graphs that they give you, because they help you out a lot. Okay? All right. So hopefully that'll help you out a little bit, understanding how to get to this stuff. Sorry, you're seeing my messy house at this point. All right. Good luck with all that. If you need help, teachers are there for you. Make sure you're calling them. Bye.